A spectacular performance. Curry from half court. Sometimes, something looks like it's been there a while.
We're here. It's your boys, Wesley and Thomas. We're here to talk about draft coverage, among other things. Rumors, Klay Thompson rumors, DeMar DeRozan rumors, other NBA rumors. So we're just gonna go pick by pick, talk about some things we noticed about the teams that drafted them, about the players that got drafted, how those teams kind of fit together, some winners in the draft, some losers in the draft, as well as some. We're gonna start off with Klay Thompson, him potentially not coming back to the Warriors. So I'll hand it over to
Yeah,
Thomas to get this
that's
started.
that's kind of the biggest in Warriors world. That's kind of the biggest story that's going on right now. Obviously, around the league, it's a pretty big story, but for us Warriors fans, it's kind of priority number one. So over the last 24 hours, stories have basically come out saying Klay Thompson is refusing essentially to sign with the Warriors. It's a done deal. He's not coming back for whatever reason. Who knows exactly why? During the negotiations, he got upset. Something soured him on the Warriors franchise, and he's done. So the question now is it going to be the Lakers? In which case I would probably shoot myself. Is it going to be the Mavericks, which I could stomach? There was talk about the Magic. They just put that to bed by signing Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. He's their shooting guard. It's not Klay. There's talk about the 76ers, but they seem more interested in Paul George right now. So it seems unlikely it'll be them. So it seems like it's coming down to the Mavericks and the Lakers. Now, the Lakers thing, I think for most Warriors fans is like a sickening level of betrayal. Like I when I saw that little news story pop up, kind of felt my stomach start to churn a little bit. Like I will say this, I don't think it's realistic because they don't have the money for it. It would require LeBron to take like a $30 million pay cut. LeBron has never taken a pay cut in his life. I don't think it's going to start now so they can sign, 34-year-old Klay Thompson. If I had to put money on it, I'd say Klay Thompson's going to be a Maverick next season, which is, I mean, I guess it's whatever. But I guess more importantly, what I want to talk about is the bizarre nature of the saga, I guess, that has led to this point. Because Klay Thompson, as we know, he was in negotiations with the Warriors this full season. They apparently offered him 2 years, $40 million, $20 million a season. He, I took that as disrespect somehow, even though he's coming off his worst season of his career. And because of that, is basically, like I said, refusing, I guess, like a toddler, refuses to eat their vegetables, refusing to sign with the Warriors, and is instead signing with the Mavericks for basically the same amount of money. I don't fully get it. If it's so disrespectful, you'd only take $20 million from the Warriors. How is it not disrespectful to take the same amount of money from the Mavericks? But whatever. I mean, that's kind of where the situation stands. We'll see how it plays out. But anyways, Wes, you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, of course, I have some thoughts on franchise legend potentially having played his last season in a Warriors jersey. It's really sad to see. I mean, the worst thing that could come out of this is that Klay leaves us for the Lakers. I would literally, I have a Klay Thompson dry fit shirt that I run in a lot. I would have to burn that and then just never, never run in that again because I can't forgive Klay for that if he leaves. So they go to the Lakers. If he goes to the Mavs, it's I can stomach that. I mean, obviously, if he's not even taking much of a pay cut compared to what we can pay him, I don't understand why he would not just like stay with us. Obviously, I think
Yeah.
the Magic. I don't think he's going to the Magic because they signed KCP. That was like the biggest rumor, him going to the Orlando Magic because they need shooting. But yeah, it's kind of looking more like he's going to go to the Mavs, and it of course sucks seeing Clay go because even if it's not the Mavs, he's definitely leaving. Unfortunately, whether it comes down to the Mavs or the Lakers or some other third team that we don't know about as of yet, he's probably not going to be in a Warriors jersey next season. That's unfortunate to see, but it's a business. And just as a Warriors fan, I just hope that the Warriors can pivot and kind of build as good of a championship team around Steph for this like final few seasons we have with the Steph and Dre core. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's kind of all you can say at this point. Nobody knows where he's going, but the Warriors seem to be no longer an option. So it's sad. Obviously, I mean, I can't really sum up what Clay's done for the franchise or means the franchise or whatever in like 3 minutes. So I'm not going to try, but every Warriors fans know like this guy's a legend, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. However, if he does go to the Lakers, which I don't think is likely, I will freak the fuck out. I will be so upset I will be absolutely distraught. But again, let's just hope that doesn't happen. And we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah.
I guess from there, there's some other rumors. If it's free agency, there's always rumors. But aside from the KCP thing, which I mean isn't the most league-shattering move, there's not much that's actually happened that's concrete. So I
Yeah.
think we can safely segue into talking about the draft.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do really like that move for the Magic. Obviously, they're
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
set up for next season. So yeah, they'll
No,
be
no,
dangerous.
that's a very smart move. They're building. I don't think they're contenders next season, but they're building. They're putting the pieces together.
Well, there's one
So
team in the East
yeah,
that's gonna stop them. The Knicks. It's the top
it's
dog out
true.
there. So,
It's true.
anyways, yeah, we can transition over to talking about or do you want to start off with the number one overall pick and then go down to 30, I guess?
That would be yeah. Let's just do it that way. All
Actually,
right.
why don't we start off with
Number
5
what?
and then go to 13? Let's go like a random order. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
All right.
no, so you want to do wait, so we're thinking 11 for 226 and then kind of just like keep in that kind of order.
Yeah, yeah. Just cross
Yeah,
them out
okay.
as we go.
Keep the fans guessing.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right.
Well,
So, anyways, I guess let's just get started. So, number one overall pick is Zachary Risache for the Atlanta. Wait, oh yeah, so okay, it was the Atlanta Hawks. For a second, I thought it was the Wizards. My brain short circuited. No, for the Atlanta Hawks. Now, I guess just to do a little bit of a monologue, like the talk about this draft for months now has been about how bad it is, about how weak it is, about how little talent there is, about how there's no like guaranteed star in the draft, about how teams don't even want to pick in this draft because of how bad it is. Teams don't know who's going to be good, who's going to be bad, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think you kind of saw that like in evidence with the first pick being Zachary Shea, because let's face it, this guy is nothing like a normal NBA first overall pick. He's not some incredibly hype prospect everybody knows. He didn't tear up college. He didn't tear up the Euro League like Luka Doncic did a couple years ago. He's kind of just a, a modern wing, which is good. He's a modern NBA wing. He's tall. He has a decent handle for his size. He can shoot. He's athletic. He's, again, like they were saying on the draft telecast, he's kind of just like your prototypical NBA 3-and-D guy in the modern NBA. And I think that's why the Hawks made this pick. They were looking for somebody who could fill out their rotation, who they would get a guaranteed starter in, or at least a guaranteed rotation player because it's such a weak draft. That's what they were going for. I don't blame them, but I'm not super high on it. I think Sarr was the much better pick. There was talk about him skipping his workout with the Hawks and how that would scare them away. I don't get that at all. This guy's not going to hold out for 4 years. No, it's the NBA. Nobody holds out. Rookies just don't hold out. It's not something that happens. You shouldn't have to worry about that. If you had picked him, he might have like been unhappy, but he would have showed up. He would have played, and he's going to be. I guess I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but I would say this is already the first bad pick of the draft because I think Sarr is almost guaranteed to be a better NBA player than Risa Shea is going forward. So, any thoughts
yeah, I mean,
on
kind of
that?
like you said, this is kind of like the worst year to have the first overall pick because there's not a Victor Wembanyama, a Zion, a LeBron, a Luca, anything like that. So you're kind of just like you have to make your best bet and kind of just hope that it works out. One thing I did see, like looking at his highlights, I'm pretty sure this is the one guy, one of the only guys I saw his highlights for, is that he's a pretty good rim protector for how much of a basically just like a wing he is, which is kind of similar to Jason Tatum. Like Jason Tatum, even though he's a wing, he can still clean up a lot of the clean up a lot on the like rim protection, and that's how their defense is so elite. So maybe like a Jason Tatum comp. I don't know if that's like a what do you think about that Jason Tatum comp?
That would be like the high end of outcomes. And I think, look, let's face it, we know the draft is not a science. It's very unpredictable every year. You just never know who's going to be good 4 years down the line.
Hmm.
You can scout, you can pretend like you know things, you can make hot takes, but you don't know. I understand again why the Hawks would make this pick because you're looking at that high end of outcomes and you're thinking, okay, this guy maybe maps onto the career progression of somebody like a Jason Tatum. But I wouldn't put any money on him reaching that. I would if you're saying, okay, is Jason Tatum is the max evolution, right? I don't know Pokemon, but like isn't that how it works? Like you have the max evolution.
Yeah, yeah,
You're thinking like what's two steps down from that? Is like who were you talking about? Like a Sadiq Bey, you know?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
maybe
yeah.
that's the more realistic outcome for Risa Shea. Maybe somewhere in between.
I
I
mean,
think the Hawks are certainly hoping you get at least something beyond a Sadiq Bey, but still, like,
the first overall picks in the past, like they got Jalen Johnson, who turned out to be like he eventually blossomed, but what are the two? One of them, Cam Reddish, didn't work out. Onyeka Okongwu, he's like solid, like kind of a bench or not bench. He's starting, but he's still not like
I
reaching
like
that star
Okongwu. I
potential
think,
over there. Yeah, I like
yeah,
him too. He's probably one of the other than Jalen Johnson. He's like one of the only ones that like hit. What's the other Duke? Not Cam Reddish, but there's another DeAndre Hunter. He didn't
Jesus,
really
talking
like
about,
pan out.
yeah,
So
talking about
I don't know. I mean,
busts.
yeah, bust basically. I don't know. I mean, the Hawks.
Yeah,
It's kind of unfortunate because, like I said, this is not the year to get the first overall pick because you're not getting some generational talent. And I mean, they did get some picks back in return for DeJounte Murray today, or was that today or
they
yesterday?
did.
So
That was
that's,
it was technically yesterday, but
but it's still like you can kind of see the direction they're going in, kind of with a rebuild. But they still have Trey on the roster, and I don't know, he's gonna propel you into like at least the play-in typically. So it's kind of they're kind of like juggling between like two different timelines a little bit. I mean, Trey's not so much older, but like he's this first overall pick. I don't know if he's going to be on the same timeline, or I don't know if he said Risa Shea is going to be on the same timeline as Trey,
yeah.
unfortunately. But I mean, yeah, I guess we'll see if how this pick pans out. But I heard a lot
I mean,
about Sar going number one, so I thought he was going number one.
yeah.
But
I
I
mean,
get
that's the reality of the Hawks situation too, is that they can't do a rebuild. It's got to be a retool, right? Like,
yeah,
I mean, you could trade Trey, but they seem to not want to do that at all. So unless you do that, which seems to be off the table, it's got to be a retool because you can't have a rebuild while Trey Young is still on your roster, getting you like 20 extra wins a season. Like, just
well,
doesn't work.
Trey and Wendy
Um,
would be so nice, but I don't know if like because the Spurs probably have draft
I
compensation too. To
the Spurs seem to really want to build their own thing. The Spurs seem to want to do it in-house. It
That's
just doesn't
fair.
seem like their front office doesn't ever has never seemed to be the type that would go out and make a big trade like that. But
Yeah.
I would have liked it. But yeah, it did they shut it. I remember the rumors were that was gonna happen early last season, and the Spurs like basically put out a press release being like, oh, we're not doing that. So you can stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's all my
Um
thoughts like on it. I guess we can transition over to Mr.
yeah.
Sar
S-
with the number two overall
Sar
pick.
Sar, like you were saying. When the Hawks won the lottery, there were Twitter posts of Hawks fans being like, "We're getting Sar," like it almost felt for a second like it was a normal draft where there's this big, hype prospect everybody wants, like it's a real lottery. You're trying to win the rights to draft this guy. Clearly, like this is the professional scouts stepped in and looked closer at what he can do, and we're like, maybe it's not, maybe he's not that kind of guy because the hype seemed to die down the closer he got to the draft. But from what I've seen of him, I would still take him number one overall, clearly. I think he fits more so than anybody else in this draft what the modern NBA is becoming. He is the biggest guy with a legitimate handle in this draft, which is nice. He is the best rim protector in this draft, which every NBA team just wants more and more of now. Uh, he's freakishly athletic and has a massive wingspan and is what I think 7'1" or 6 foot, 7 foot even, 7'1", something like that. My comparison for him really was like kind of like a Chet Holmgren with
Hmm.
slightly more athleticism and a weaker jumper. The jumper is the problem. They were like the analysts on the draft were talking about how basically the entire problem with him as a prospect is that you don't know whether the jumper is going to pan out. If the jumper doesn't pan out, he will probably be just a rotation level player who's a good rim protector and can attack closeouts and function as a lob threat and cutter, but he will never be the guy. The jumper pans out or pans out to a great degree. If he turns into a Chet Holmgren level shooter, you're talking about like a legit second option championship contender type guy. I really do see that for him. Um,
Hmm.
so for me, this would have been the clear, easy number one pick. And I think the Washington Wizards are off to a great start with their rebuild by taking him. And I will say this about the Wizards also, like technically they haven't fully gotten the rebuild started because you need to get Kuzma off the roster. But I think what the path they took trading Avidia, even though I didn't like it, I understand why they did it because they want to get as young as possible with as many picks as possible and do an honest to God rebuild, not the kind of weird hybrid thing they've been doing with Kuzma and Porzingis and
Yeah,
Poole for the
yeah,
last couple of years.
yeah. I mean, I definitely, I don't know. hopefully he pans out. I mean, that's kind of like what this pick is for, I guess, for the Wizards, just like swing for the fences, the guy with the greatest potential in the draft. And if he pans out, then you're winning, but you're gonna be bad anyway, so you're gonna have picks in the future. You might as well just swing for the fences, try to get that superstar as soon as possible, so you can start like kind of surrounding your like once you rebuild, you're still rebuilding, but you're gonna have your guy for sure. Kind of like what all rebuilding teams eventually have to find that one young guy that's gonna be their star. So this is a good start, like you said, to their rebuild. And yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. Hopefully the jumper does pan out because then he can be kind of like
Yeah.
a better Anthony Davis, like 2020 Anthony Davis, but like over and over again, because yeah, AD kind of never got his jumper back. So, but yeah,
Yeah, it's
it's
kind of
hard.
weird, dude. I don't know. I don't know what happened.
But yeah, if he can,
Anyways,
if his jumper can pan out, he's gonna be good. I'm gonna like him.
yeah.
So, yeah,
Let's move on. Number three, Reed Shepherd out of Kentucky. Now, this is a guy. I'm trying to be when I'm doing this analysis, I'm trying to not act like I'm some kind of like superstar level scout who knows what I'm talking about. So I'm trying not to insert my opinions too heavily on this. I'll just say I didn't like him as much as some people seem to like him. I think he's kind of a career role player at best. But I will say this, for the Rockets, he fits exactly what they need with that roster. He is a legitimate point guard. He can handle the ball and pass the ball at a high level. And he is a knockdown shooter. He shot 52% from
I
three in
believe it.
college. Oh my God, I know. He looks like it. Yeah, I mean, dude, he looks the part. It's kind of funny. He looks like the kind of basketball player that he is. He has the kind of name for the kind of basketball player he is. Reed Shepherd. Like, come on, could Reed Shepherd be any other kind of player? Like, yeah, I mean, what the Rockets needed is a point guard. They got a point guard. The Rockets needed some shooting to surround Sengun with. They got shooting in spades. Um, he doesn't have the kind of traits you'd expect for a future star, and I think the league knows it. But again, there's not that many of those guys in this draft. So they took the player that fit them. They took the player that probably has a floor as, a fifth or fourth starter on a team that's going to be trying to contend at some point in the future. And I understand it. So
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the trend I'm noticing with this draft is like for these lottery teams that have high picks, you just like pick kind of what you need and like go with like the safe because there's a lot of safe options in this draft. It's not like there
yeah,
are some stars that might have the potential to be like superstars like Alex Sarr, but Reed Shepherd, you just know you're gonna get like a basic kind of like a TJ McConnell type play. Like regardless, you don't have to like kind of bank on that. It's probably just gonna happen. So yeah, I think it's like it was a safe pick, and I think it's gonna work out for them for their rebuild around Sengun. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Let's see, Stephon Castle. That's the next pick.
Stephon Castle. Now
Spurs.
Spurs front office, I trust. I will say that. I'll lead off with that. Stephon Castle. It's a common trend. This is a guy who is he's limited. He's a great on defense. He's great on defense, plays with intensity, has good size, good physicality, gives guys a problem. He's a somewhat limited shooter. People have talked about him figuring his jumper out. Like people have said, like in his jumper looked better in pre-draft workouts than it did in college. I hope so, because if it looks like it did in college, he might be a non-shooter coming into the league. One of my number one rules is I'm always scared of guards who can't shoot in the modern NBA. I really do not like the idea of drafting guards that can't shoot and banking on them figuring out their shot later, because if they don't, then they're going to be unplayable because there's just no guards in the modern NBA left who don't shoot. So that would be the big worry with him. Other than that, I mean, he's a hard-nosed point guard. He's kind of a combo guard. He can pass the ball decently. He can attack the rim. He's good. He's physical. He does sometimes create contact, get in ones and stuff, move guys a little bit on his drives. I can't say this is a player I'm like, wow, I loved watching Stephon Castle at UConn. I can't wait for him to see him in the NBA. I think he's just going to be a good complementary piece to Wembanyama. But as always, some guys sometimes pan out in ways you don't expect. So we'll see.
Yeah, I don't have any thoughts on this pick. I think the way we should do this, like, is finish the lottery and then like if you have like your own picks that you want to highlight,
Okay.
then we
Okay.
can do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
don't have thoughts on
Okay.
like most of these, I'm not gonna lie. So
Yeah, it's fair.
yeah.
That's fair.
So let's see who's
Um,
next. Maron Holland.
Ron Holland. Yeah, this is. I'm starting to repeat myself a lot. So, very similar type of player to Castle. Another guard with shooting concerns. He's not a complete non-shooter, same way Castle's not a complete non-shooter. These are guys who will take threes. They just don't go in enough for them to be considered a quote unquote shooter in the context of the modern NBA. So both of these teams are definitely hoping on them to improve that, or else pick's probably not going to work out that well. He's definitely like an A level athlete. Like he has speed and transition. He's another guy who's very physical. He's great. He's another guy who's very good on defense. He has really quick hands, forces a lot of steals, deflections, harasses guys. His dribble looks really stiff to me, though. I don't think he's really going to be a ball handler, at least not right when he comes into the league. He's definitely going to be more of a supporting guard. Probably really is. We're starting. I mean, it's already the fifth pick in the draft. We're getting to guys who are probably just not even going to be starting for their teams. So like, he's probably not going to be starting for the Pistons. Like, he's
I mean, the
probably going to be a bench
Pistons,
beast. They're going to see what they have in him.
it's not a
I
high
know
bar
it's the
though.
Pistons. It's not a high bar, but he's still probably going to be behind Ivy, Cade, and they have one other guard in that team, I think, who we might
Sar?
be competing with. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Who they just took last year. Pistons, by the way, they're just morons. Like they keep drafting these not they you didn't need him. Like I'm not saying I'm not saying I know anything about scouting. He could turn out to be like, I don't know, like the next Magic Johnson or whatever, but like it just doesn't seem like the kind of player that they need. You don't need another non-shooting guard. You already have two of them. That's not the kind of thing you need. You want one of these guys at best who can maybe be like a your defensive first guy. You don't need three of them. But again, it's a weak draft, so maybe they're like, oh, the athleticism, that's what we like. We want a guy with a athleticism in a draft, but there's not a lot of those guys. So
Yeah, that's what I heard a lot about like with this pick is like they're not really helping Cade out. Like what Cade needed last year was like shooting, and they got rid of
yeah,
basically all their shooters like Bojan. They got rid of who's the guy that they traded for Bojan? They got rid of him. He was on New York. Quinn Grimes.
Burks,
Quinn Grimes.
Quinn
But
Grimes. Yeah, oh
they got rid of
Jesus,
him.
yeah,
So now they
that's
don't have
weird.
like
That was a
any
weird thing. I
shooting.
saw that. I didn't understand it. Yeah,
Yeah. But now and they didn't draft a shooter, so it's kind of just like I mean, like I feel like he's very similar to Asar. Like I get very like similar Asar vibes, but Asar is probably even better just because he's just more athletic than
yeah.
what's his name? The dude we were just talking about.
Ron Holland. The,
Yeah,
the the
Ron
idea
Holland.
would be
So
that Holland is like closer to becoming an NBA level shooter than Asar. So maybe you think like you give him a year, he'll get there and he'll be fine, and you can space the floor for you fine. But I don't know, man.
they
I'm
should
just
have
never sold on these guys who can't shoot.
they should have just gone for like a guaranteed like shooter, even if he doesn't have like the star potential, but you know he's going to be a good spot up shooter for Cade to kick out to
Yeah,
because now
I would have
Cade's
loved
kicking out
Dillingham for
to
them there, but
yeah that would have been
oh, I
well.
know.
Oh yeah, he was on the board, so yeah. But yeah, I don't know who he's gonna kick out to now. It's gonna be like Asar and Jaden Ivey. It's gonna look pretty ugly, but so props up for Cade for trying to for putting himself through this. Hopefully he can get them to the
Kate is
14,
Kate is
14
speed running
seed.
the Kate is speed running the I'm asking out thing. He's like he gets to that first contract, he's gone. He's not.
Yeah,
I doubt he's resigning with them. I would be so shocked. They've completely bungled it. They got like because they got. I mean, maybe he's not a superstar, but they got the guy. Like you could build around him theoretically, but they clearly don't know what they're doing. So he's probably going to be asking out eventually.
yeah. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Like you said, we're not experts, but like I feel like you kind of just know the one thing that you guys are struggling with is shooting, and you have a guy that like he can create advantages and kick out to shooters if you have them. So you got to draft shooters or trade for them. But you're trading away your shooters and you're not drafting any shooters. So it's
Yeah.
just yeah, feel bad for Cade. But yeah. Next pick is Tijan Saloon, right? Am I
Jean
pronouncing?
Saloon, I don't know how to pronounce it really. He's another member of the French invasion. France is just churning these guys out now. It's kind of insane. I don't know what they did to their basketball program in like 2018, but all of a sudden they produce like three lottery picks every year. Um, this is a guy like this is the ultimate upside. Like this guy, he's not like an NBA player right now. Um, he's like the ultimate upside pick. He has the frame of an NBA player and he has the athleticism of an NBA player, but he's not an NBA player. He can't shoot at an NBA level, can't dribble at an NBA level. He can't pass at an NBA level. He's kind of like he's all right on defense from again This is partly me going on what I saw on his highlight reel, partly me going off of what I've seen other scouts say about him. His defense is all right, but not great. But I get it. Okay, if you're the Hornets, you know you're not contending this year or the next year. Why not take a swing on a guy who's what I think he is? I forget what is he 6'8", 6 something like that. Who at least has the theoretical frame and athleticism to be a modern NBA wing.
Six
I mean,
nine.
like I said, he can't. He's 6'9", yeah. He can't shoot an NBA level right now, but he does. It's not like he's a complete non-shooter. Again, he's another one of these guys. He has a jumper, just doesn't go in enough for him to be considered a shooter yet.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
33%. That's not bad.
Yeah. No, it's not bad. It's just he'll need to. And if you look at the highlights, it's mostly he's the kind of guy teams are not closing out on that aggressively. Like they're mostly letting him shoot because you know what I mean. You know that kind of player.
Yeah, yeah.
The vast majority of his scoring on film is I said film like I'm okay, that's getting very pretentious here. On his highlight reel is just cuts, which is kind of a little bit scary. It's like cuts or transition.
Yeah.
I mean, again, but if you teach him to shoot and you teach him to dribble, he could easily end up being better than 90% of the guys in this class. So I get it. It's just it's hard to really even talk about it, like because he's probably not going to be a relevant factor in the league for another 3 years, no matter what happens. So
Yeah. I don't really have any thoughts on this. I mean, if the Hornets were more relevant, then maybe I could like speak to or talk about like how this might affect their playoff push, but like they have nothing going on, so yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to add. Let's
Yeah, I mean,
see.
and that's why you take a guy like this, right? Because like you sure as hell don't need contributions now. So
Yeah, exactly. Years down the line, maybe, but yeah. Anyways, let's move on to Donovan Clingan. That's the rim protector, right? The like 7'2"
yes,
dude. Yeah. Actually, I'll
it's
take
the
this. I mean,
okay.
I guess now that you know that DeAndre Ayton is probably not going to be your future center, it's not terrible to just like swing on trying to like get these building blocks for a rebuild going forward. You have Scoot, you have Simons, you have Shaden Sharp. You kind of just need that rim protector going forward, so you have a little more. You can kind of like figure out who's going to pan out, but you have kind of like young guys at each position to kind of like for these guys to like prove themselves. So I kind of
Yeah,
like this pick. He was pretty good at UConn. They won the national championship twice, so
Weiss.
obviously he has like winning tendencies. So I did notice like in watching
Yeah,
some of his like highlight tapes, he's very slow-footed and like obviously he's very
he
tall,
is.
so he's going to be a good rim protector, but
Yeah,
like he moves like a freight train or a car that has like one of those like things on the tire, so he just like really slow.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean he's gonna be yeah, that's my take on it.
yeah.
Is
So Klingon is like so. There's this thing when the NBA draft right now. Every year when there's a big man comes out, where he's like, if this were 1986, he's going number one overall. And Klingon is one of those guys. Like everybody's been saying that. Like if this is
he's
1985
giant.
or this is
He's
whatever,
giant.
this is 30 years ago, guaranteed number one overall pick, which I get. Um, like I mean that gives you kind of idea of the type of player he is. Like in college on. I mean everybody knows about the defense. Like on defense, he's kind of like he runs a lot of Walker Kessler, that type of athleticism, that type of movement ability, and that type of rim protection. Like that's a valuable player on defense, even in the modern NBA. The question is going to be two things. Like one on offense, where does he slot into modern NBA? He's tall enough to be a lob threat, doesn't have the athleticism to be a great lob threat. So like he's in that department. Um, he played in the post. He was not an elite post scorer in college either. On offense in college, he was like probably the third option. So some of these guys who come into the league as great post scorers, I say, okay, well that translates because they have the touch around the rim, they have the footwork, the positioning ability to be good finishers. We'll see with Klingon. I think that's kind of the swing skill for him. Like, can he figure out how to be an elite finisher in the NBA? If so, that because Walker Kessler, that's the problem with him. Walker Kessler's minutes went down in his second year in Utah because he's on offense. He's so limited that
Hmm.
it's just really tough to justify keeping him out there, no matter how good he is on defense. So you hope that Klingon can be better in that department and keep himself on the floor. The other problem is obviously like modern NBA. Teams want to switch. Teams are playing all these exotic defensive coverages. How does he fit into that? You're probably going to end up playing a lot of drop coverage. Drop coverage is what it is. Like it's a solution to a problem that's kind of unsolvable. You have fast guards coming around screens who are threatening to pull up. So you have to chase them around to force them to not pull up and get them. And then you're conceding the open midi, you're conceding a potential lob. Well, we all know the problems with drop coverage, like it's upsides, downside, blah 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 blah. So he's that kind of player. He has an archetype in the NBA, and you know he'll be able to play that archetype, I think. And that is again why I think he's such a great pick for the Blazers in this draft. You got a guy who can be a starting center for you going forward. And you hopefully you get something for Ayton. Maybe not this season. Maybe you let him back Ayton up for a little bit, and then you get something for Ayton next offseason. But yeah, that's a pick I'd put my stamp on and say that's a good pick.
Yeah, fair. Have you for these any of these previous picks, have you not put your stamp of disapproval on any of these, like from 1 through 8? Is that where we're on right now? Or
Holland
7?
Holland was my least favorite. Holland for the Pistons is my least favorite. Like again, I try not to be too negative because I just end up sounding like a moron when he turns out to be like Drew Holiday or whatever. But like I don't like it. Other people who know more than I do have all said they don't like it. It makes me feel confident saying I don't like it. Saliman is another guy. Like you watched. I mean, I would advise anybody who's listening to this, and I advise US, just go watch the highlight film. Like he's pretty rough. But again, I at least understand what they're doing. Holland, I just don't get it. I don't get it as I don't get the player, and I don't get the fit, and that's to me that's the kiss of death. So
Yeah, I agree. It's gonna be messy this year. Let's move on to Rob Dillingham, who I think is on the Timberwolves, right? Or is that a different player?
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Drafted out of
yes,
Spurs, traded to the Timberwolves.
yeah, exactly.
You can take this. So,
Yeah, Dillingham was the guy who I like. That was the guy before the draft. I was like, I like him. I did this thing. In my amateur scouting, I made this list of like 16 guys who I liked at their spot. Not that would be good value at the spot. He was on that list. Um, he's just an elect. He's a classic like hooper like six bench scorer type dude with upside to be, I guess, like a Kimba Walker. I called him the Black Tyler Hero. I don't think that's fully accurate because he's a little bit smaller than Tyler Hero, but he does a lot of the same stuff. I guess Kimba might be a little bit better comparison because their profiles as a player are similar, their size and all that stuff. Um, very shifty, a lot of burst, a lot of quick twitch athleticism. Probably not the little bit short for me to really like him. 6'1" is just a little bit too short to where it's like there's going to be some obvious issues on defense. Um, you're just hoping that everything he did in college translates to the NBA. You're hoping that he can get his shot off over bigger, taller, stronger, faster defenders. You're hoping he doesn't get intimidated by NBA rim pressure and he can continue to pressure the rim because that obviously opens up a skill set for a guy like that. And I guess you're hoping that he doesn't like, I don't know, crash out or something. Like, I don't know. He's
yeah.
got guys with the skill set. It's pretty obvious, like what they're like. You know what they're being brought in to do. Energy, scoring off the bench, maybe the swing skill for him is like passing. Like he's an all right passer, but if he turns into like a legitimate bona fide playmaker, maybe he blossoms into a starter alongside Anthony Edwards going forward. I think they're probably drafting him as kind of the Conley replacement, but like if this were like some other draft, I would say, oh, like, he's definitely the Conley replacement. But this is the kind of draft where these players are not like guaranteed to blossom into what you envision them blossoming into. So, but this is another pick. I like it. I get it. I think he provides clear value now as a bench scorer, and he could maybe provide even better value in the future going forward.
Yeah, I think this pick is good for both sides because obviously, like, I think Rob Dillingham kind of just fits what the Timberwolves need. They don't really have any like shot creation outside of like when it's not Ant or Mike Conley initiating the offense. It's really ugly. I mean, as talented as the Timberwolves are, kind of as a whole, like they have pretty good ball handling down the roster, but they don't have like downhill ball pressure, shot creation. So this guy definitely, Rob Dillingham, he definitely injects a little bit of that into the culture, into the team, so that when it's not Conley or Anthony Edwards on the court, you're not super worried. I mean, obviously he's a rookie, so it's not going to be like immediate impact, but at least this pick was made with a strategy, or the trade, I guess, was made with a strategy in mind, so that you kind of address one of your weaknesses that was maybe exposed a little bit in those non Mike Conley minutes. So yeah, I mean, hopefully if he pans out into like a Tyler Hero, that would be perfect. Because I think even on the Heat, Tyler Hero's like perfect role is not as a starter alongside like Jimmy and Bam. It's off the bench as like a spark plug microwave scorer. So hopefully
Yeah.
if he can, if he can be that for them, score or like be playing alongside like the Kyle Andersons, Monte Morrises of the world. I think that'd be like a perfect fit for the Timberwolves and kind of take them to the next level as because they're already contenders, so it's kind of just addresses
Yeah.
one of their weaknesses. So yeah. Let's see. What is the next? The 10th overall pick is or ninth overall pick.
Ninth, actually. Yeah.
Zach Edey. This is one of the guys I knew about.
Zach Edey.
Yeah.
Zach Edey, the guy who everybody's talking about. He's 7'4". That's the first thing you notice. Um, I mean, this is a tough one. Okay, so let's get a couple things out of the way. He's the best player in college basketball this past season. Not even a question. Just better than everybody else by such a wide margin. It's not even a joke. Now, we know that the college game and the NBA game are far enough apart at this point that doesn't really mean all that much. It's entirely different games. The level of athleticism, speed, shooting, all that, it's completely reduced in college. It turns it, college is kind of winding the clock back like 60 years to like the 1970s NBA, right? Like that's kind of game you're playing in college. So, but with that being said, I'll say this: Edie is the kind of guy he's polarizing, right? He has a lot of people who are haters. He has a lot of people who are saying teams are morons trying to take him sooner because he's just so good in college. How could he not be good? My personal opinion is anybody who's that consistently putting up those kind of stats and having it translate to winning at any level of basketball is worth a shot. In a weak draft, I think he's worth an extra shot. And I will also say this: he got put in the perfect situation. I think the Memphis front office, they understood exactly what they were doing taking him. He's the perfect guy to play next to Jaren Jackson Jr. Jaren Jackson Jr. is a great player in the modern NBA. He's a really, really big wing who could rim protect on defense and play and space on offense. Like that's exactly the kind of guy you want in the modern NBA. But he comes with the downside that he can't really play the five, and you need to find somebody to play the five next to him for him to be a real like difference maker on your team. They had Steven Adams. Steven Adams gets hurt. Who better to play that role than Zach Edey, the guy who literally looks like he was transplanted directly from like 1964? 7'4",
Like Mark Eaton.
one of literally Mark Eaton, like just an absolute behemoth. He has beautiful touch in the post. That's one thing I want to make clear. This guy, he is not an unskilled player. He has beautiful touch. His ability to sustain high level efficiency with a large number of attempts scoring in the post in college is genuinely impressive. And there's no way that touch does not translate to being a great finisher at the NBA, especially given his height. Number two, he is a good rim protector. Don't let people tell you he's not a good rim protector. I've seen some people say he's over rim protector because of height. Not true. Is he slow footed? Yes. I mean, he's 7'4" and he's not Wimby, so he's going to be slow footed. Is he Does he have like the reflexes of a gazelle? No, he's not one of those guys. He's not like a savant rim protector. Like Klingon is more that archetype where he has not just the size but also the instinct and stuff. But Edie is a really good rim protector, and I think he will be a good rim protector in the NBA. Problem's gonna be, can he, like, it's one thing to say, oh, you play drop coverage with Klingon. It's another thing to say, oh, you play drop coverage with Edie, who is so slow for the modern NBA that it could become a problem. We will just need to see him on the court at NBA game speed to see whether or not he can hang. That's it. That's the only way to say it. It's perfect on paper. You need to see him do it in the NBA. Other problem with the guys this size. So I'm spending a lot of time on this pick, but I think this is the kind of guy like you need to talk about this guy because everybody's talking about him. No, another problem with guys this size: injury concerns. I will stick up for Zach Edey here. This guy played every single goddamn game in college, 40 minutes a game, never had any injury concerns whatsoever. Now, could it materialize at the next level, like when the athleticism is better, when he's playing at a faster speed? Of course. But there's just no reason to be concerned other than unnecessary hand wringing. Like, I mean, Dillingham, who was taking a pick earlier, could you get a season-ending injury just as easily as he could? He doesn't have knee concerns. He doesn't have like an old hip that was hurt, 2 seasons ago that people should be concerned about. He's injury-wise, there's nothing really to be concerned about any more than any other normal player. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, I like it. I love it for Memphis. But we'll see. We'll need to see it. We'll need to see it at NBA game speed.
Yeah, definitely on paper. I like the move slotting Jaren Jackson Jr. to the 4 and then having Zach Edey at the 5. I think this is like one of the biggest reasons. I think when the Grizzlies are fully healthy this next season, they're gonna be like one of the biggest. They're gonna make the biggest jump from where they were last season to this season, just because defensively they already had that culture, but they're just gonna be even better because the combined rim protection of JJJ and Zach Edey is just gonna be there. Like nothing is gonna be going up at the rim. I mean, you bring up valid concerns about his slowness, I guess. But I just think like the combined size of those two is just gonna be like twin towers. It definitely helps that JJJ can shoot, because otherwise it would be kind of like a clunky fit. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, but I do like the I think it's gonna be like immaculate next season. The Grizzlies with Jaw back, Zach Edey, JJJ, Desmond Bain, I guess.
Yeah.
But and they kind of like was with Steven Adams playing a lot, playing at the five, they kind of showed that they don't necessarily need like a shooting big for it to work. They just have to be like a big guy who can rebound, and hopefully, do you know much about his
Yeah.
like rebounding skills? I mean, obviously he's 7'4", so
Oh,
he's probably
he's great. No, he's great. Yeah.
so I don't think
He
that's gonna be a
fights.
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a very nice fit because just we saw it with Steven Adams. It worked well when Steven Adams was healthy, like you said. It worked. The fit was good with JJJ and the five, Steven Adams. So I think it's gonna be good. But yeah,
Yeah.
and he's not skinny like a lot of college centers
Oh
are
no,
coming into league. So
no,
he's already like 300
that's
something
it.
pounds. I'm gonna say.
Dude, he's oh my, he's just. I mean, he's just massive. Like he has the kind of size that just plays. He'll play in the NBA. Nobody's gonna intimidate him. Nobody's gonna back him down. He's gonna come. He's gonna walk in the league and be one of the most physically intimidating dudes on the court. Like there's just no way around it. To me, that's why it's such an obvious good selection. But some people, I just think, can't get over like the slowness concerns. Can he get up and down the court? Like I think it's just ridiculous to ask that. We've seen him do it. It's not like these college athletes are like middle schoolers. Like these are future NBA players he's playing against. He's getting up and down with them just fine. Like I understand concerns. I think proclaiming him a bust because of it is ridiculous. And I think those people are just wrong. Oh, and one last thing. Remember, he's a 4-year player, so he's coming to the league at 22. So they're gonna be playing him right away. He's not gonna be sitting on a bench anywhere. He's probably starting lineup game one. I bet that would be my personal.
Yeah, I'm hyped for how this. I think this is gonna be one of the. I can easily see this being like a great success for the Grizzlies. A lot of the other teams, it's kind of like the player has to like kind of blossom perfectly for it to work. But I think this is gonna like just immediately his rim protection alongside like sliding JJJ to the four is gonna be like immaculate. It's gonna be nice. So
Yeah.
I'm hyped for this. Moving on to Cody Williams at 10th overall by the Utah Jazz. What do you think about that?
He is so first off, brother of J Dub. Shout out J Dub. He was at one point considered the better of the brothers, but he kind of played himself out of it in college. He did not have the greatest season his freshman year in college, and he was he was in conversations at one point early in the year for being the number one overall pick. So he slid all the way to 10th. So that tells you something about how his college year went. Now, two things. One, Danny Ainge is the kind of guy you could take. He could take, I don't know, Wesley Hastings out of. I'm not going to dox you, but you know what I mean. And I would be like, damn, good pick, Danny Ainge, because he has a track record of success. Um,
Mhm.
so I like, but Cody Williams, I will say this: he's not somebody I was very high on. He looked confused on the floor a lot in college. He just looked like he was not ready for that speed of game, and that's obviously one step below the NBA game speed. So like the mental aspect of it. Like again, I don't want to say this like he does remind me a little bit of Cam Reddish in that he was so hyped coming out of high school. He has all the physical tools. He has the frame. He has the length. He has the height. But he already looked scared and confused on the court in college, which is what Cam Reddish did. Everybody was like, whatever, wave it out. Like we know it's Cam Reddish. This guy's been the number one guy in his class since like high school, which he's gonna be
Mhm.
fine. And then he comes to the NBA and shocker, he looks scared and confused on the court in the NBA too, and he loses his jumper, all that yada yada. Cody Williams, though, I mean, there's all you can say about him is he looks the part. Like he's the modern NBA wing. 6'8", has a nice handle, has a jumper that I wouldn't say it's like the purest jumper, but he shot 44% from three in college, so it works. Um, he is the modern NBA wing. And for the Jazz, perfect pick. Why? Because he's clearly the kind of guy who's not going to be ready to get on the court his first year. But they're not trying to compete anyways. They're another team that's building up this collection of guys. They're kind of trying to they're kind of getting this bag of players and they're trying to just let it gel and see which ones pan out. He's the perfect kind of guy to add to the mix there. You see what you have. He has all the tools to have some of the highest upside of anybody in this class. So at 10, I understand it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to this pick. I do like the just like as a side comment, I do like the what Danny Ainge is doing in Utah. Like he's definitely like whenever that Lauri Markkanen trade does happen for whatever team, hopefully OKC, because that would be kind of baller for them. But like, because OKC has a bunch to offer them as well, they're just cooking up something special in Utah. I'm just waiting for one of their young guys to like blossom into that, so they know who they're going to surround their guys with. But I do like what they're doing in Utah, taking the rebuild nice and
I like
slow, methodic, But yeah,
yeah.
so
No, I like they keep adding like so they added Taylor Hendricks last year, who's very similar to Cody Williams. He's like a
I thought
raw,
that
but
was going to
like
be a good pick. I like that pick.
They didn't play him. I love Taylor Hendricks. I love Taylor. I saw him play a few times in college. I was like, this guy looks incredible on a college court. He just looked like an athlete in a different. He was in a different world athletically. The guys he's playing with, he looked great. They just didn't play him all that much. So I mean, again, I think it kind of fits what they're doing. They understand they have this layer of veteran guys who are still on the roster that they're going to shed over the years, and they're trying to pick guys who are going to eventually then come up. They're trying to give them time to develop, and eventually they're going to move into the starting lineup, and they're going to try to develop this core. I think really from the ground up. So I understand why they weren't playing Hendricks. Hopefully, he gets a lot more playing time this year and he gets to show everybody what he can do. Again, theoretically, I would love Williams next to Hendricks. I think that's a great like 3-4 pairing again for the modern NBA. You have Kessler, who has had his problems on offense. You hope that he figures that out so he can be your center of the future. But they have like 100 billion draft picks, so they can always just go get another guy. And then yeah, I mean, they made a pick later in the draft I also really liked, so I'll talk about that later. But yeah.
Well, you saw Taylor Hendricks like in person or just like live?
Oh no, just like in a on TV. I didn't see him in person. I don't. I
So
wish.
I thought he
That's
went to
regular
like
going.
yeah, he went to like Central Florida. So like, what are you doing in like
Yeah.
wherever that
No,
is?
I just happened to catch some games he was playing in on TV, and I was like, he's the kind of guy who jumped off the court at college level because of his athleticism and frame. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I agree. I hope they play him more because I want to see him at least get a chance to reach his full potential. But yeah, anyways, that was the top 10 overall picks. We're gonna ask Thomas if he has any picks that he like in particular from basically 11 onwards going into the second round, I guess. If you have any picks in the second round you really like, of course, the Warriors. We pick the next
And of
MJ,
course, we'll talk about the Warriors. Okay. See,
but
I do a fair amount. I do have a fair amount. But it's not gonna be everybody. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna try to keep it to the guys I actually know I'm talking about. 11, Buzelis. I I straight up might have taken him number one overall. I love him. He has this beautiful kind of wonky, awkward offensive game. He reminds me so much of Franz Wagner. If you look at like the Ringer draft scouting, Kevin O'Connor literally also had the Franz Wagner comp on him, so I'm not alone in that. He is one of the only guys in this class I can look at him and say, oh, yeah, that's like maybe a number one option in the NBA. Like his ability to get to the rim, the combination of handle, finishing ability, all these funky Euro step moves, the footwork, all of it. He has a nice midi. The 3-pointer is not there yet, but he has a good jumper. So I a good jumper from the mid range. So maybe it develops. That's probably, I guess, people are talking about swing skills. That's probably his swing skill, like it is for a lot of guys. But unlike a lot of these guys who come to the league who can't shoot, he's going to have no problem creating for. He's also a good playmaker for his size. He's going to have no problem creating on offense for himself, even without a jumper. The jumper is just going to be the icing on the cake as he develops. Sad thing is he got taken by the Bulls, who are like literally the most directionless franchise in the NBA. So I don't know if he'll ever get a chance to be a part of a winning core, but I think he'll be a good player individually no matter what.
mhm.
Yeah. Let's see. 14, Bub Carrington. I fucking love Bub Carrington. Watch Bub Carrington highlights. Anybody, this dude has the Kobe level stroke from the mid range. Absolutely beautiful. I don't know if he's really going to be anything in the NBA because, like, he's kind of like DeMar DeRozan. He's a mid range shot creator coming into the modern NBA. Like, where does that fit in? Again, the jumper looks so pure from the mid range, but he only shoots 28% from three. You would just hope that it just starts going in from three and he can become like my high end comp on him was Chris Middleton. Because he's big. He's like 6'7". He has a beautiful handle for his size, very smooth, gets to his spots, rises up and just drains middies over everybody. Probably the best tough shot creator in the draft. But again, that's the kind of skill set that can sometimes end up not really being all that valuable to teams because there's a lot of tough shot creators in the NBA. Like you need to play make, you need to play defense. That's the kind of stuff he needs to learn how to do. But the I guess the foundation on him is really nice, and that jumper is just so pure. I want to see him succeed because I want to see him knocking that shit down over NBA defenders. Like, yeah, his jumper just jumps off the screen at you. It's like wow, okay, I see it. It reminds me a lot of DeMar's jumper, who has one of the most pure, like aesthetic mid-range jumpers in the
Yeah.
league. So
Yeah, that boy nice.
let's see. He looks nice. It's 14. 17. I kind of don't want to talk about it. I mean, the Lakers got Dalton next. It's actually a really good pick for them. I mean,
Connect.
I wasn't the highest connect, whatever you want to call him.
Connect 4.
Hopefully he's not. Hopefully he's not going to connect on most of his shots in the NBA, and he'll be a bust. Because the Lakers got him. I can't say I was the highest on him, but he's the kind of guy where it's like it's obvious that in a draft this bad, you should just take a guy like that because he comes in the league with such an obvious offensive skill set. You can't ignore it. Like he's just a good shooting guard. He'll just be a good scorer. He reminds me a lot of Austin Reeves, actually, like that same kind of guy. Like he's probably going to struggle on defense his entire career, and he's coming to the league pretty old, so not a ton of upside, but I mean it's all there. He has the jumper, he has the mid range, he attacks the basket, he doesn't turn the ball over, he passes. Like he's just going to be like at best like or at worst like a bench scorer for them, and they do kind of need that, and they need the shooting too. So I
Well,
like
one thing
that.
one thing I did hear about like
Yeah.
JJ's new hiring is that they're gonna try to implement 5 out, so maybe he'll probably be a big part of that, I guess, if they try to do that again. But I don't know if AD is good
Yeah.
enough to shoot for them to do that.
So I was do that. So when I was literally about to say 5 out, you're playing AD like 35 minutes a game. You can't play 5 out, but
Yeah. Well,
I don't
his
know.
jumper's gonna
Sure.
come
I mean,
back,
you
I
can
guess.
try. Yeah, I mean, yeah, put 80 in the corner. Yeah, see how teams respond to that. Okay, and I said I wasn't gonna do every pick, but I promise it's just I'm doing 17 and 18 because I just really liked 18. Okay, Tristan Da Silva. Magic they're making just some good goddamn picks. Okay, Tristan Da Silva, he is he was such a slam dunk for me that he should have gone like in the lottery, like the top 14. I understand he's a little bit older. I understand he doesn't have the NBA athleticism that teams want to see. He is a 6'8" shot creator with
6'9".
a pure stroke from three, 6'9" shot creator with a pure stroke from three. He can space the floor. He played in the post in the NBA, which, as I've said many times, playing in the post he played in the post in college. Playing in the post in college, what does it generally translate to? It translates to touch, and it translates to footwork in the NBA, which you can use as a cutter, as a spot up shooter. It translates. I don't understand why NBA teams seem to be scared of these guys to play a lot in the post. Like we saw it with Jaime Jaquez. It'll translate. I called him this year's Jaime Jaquez, but he has a jumper, which makes him even better. I like him. I think he'll be an immediate contributor in Orlando. Yeah, let's see. Yeah. Deron Holmes, 22. Quick shout out to the Nuggets. That's another good pick. He was mocked like to go like 40th. So I thought, oh, maybe the Warriors could trade up a little bit and get him because I liked him for the Warriors. Nuggets front office was too smart for that. They just took him 22nd. Because yeah, I mean, he's such an obvious like role player level big in the NBA, like athleticism, size, lob threat, rim protector, cutter. He's just gonna do that stuff immediately. He's gonna walk onto the court and immediately be like kind of like a Trace Jackson Davis. Like he'll just do that stuff immediately. And I think the Pelicans took Yves Missy right before him. I think they should just taken Holmes. I think Holmes will do all the stuff that he does, but better, and more and sooner. But what do I know? I'm trying not to act like I'm an expert too much because I could be wrong about all this stuff.
Now, hopefully, some of
And then let's
some
see.
of your picks will land. But yeah,
I love it's fun. It's when you make it's fun to make projections because then when you're right, you feel so smart, like TGD last year. But then if you're wrong, you can just get clowned for like ever. So 24 Kaishan George, knockdown shooter who's also I think 6'8", those kind of guys.
he's
I'm not
gonna.
saying anything, not gonna say anything too bold, but those kind of guys have value. I think he was just a little bit undervalued. How many knockdown shooters do you get for 6'8"? Uh, who did he end up going to?
I think he's still on the Knicks. Oh no,
He
he was traded.
went to the Wizards.
Oh,
Wizards, another smart
damn
pick.
it.
I like the pick. I
Yeah, I
like
don't think
that pick.
I
I'm
don't think this
just
guy's gonna pan out anymore. I don't think he's gonna pan out, fortunately.
I would love to give a shout out to the Knicks prospect, but he was one of the only guys who was drafted who I had no clue who he was. So I'm gonna leave that one alone. Hakom Daddy. Hopefully he's great for them because I want to see the Knicks succeed because I want to see them knock off the Celtics.
Come to diet.
26. Dylan Jones. This dude was projected like 61st. I put him on my list and he went 26th. I already feel like a genius for that. I comped him to Bruce Brown. He's the kind of guy like he's only 6'6", but he kind of basically like in the college he was like a lead ball handler, but in the NBA he's probably going to play like more small ball center or four type stuff. Kind of a limited shooter, but he's so physical for his size, incredibly strong. Um, Great finisher. Like he'll probably operate out of the short roll a lot, do that kind of stuff. Great passer for the role he's going to play. Like just a good role player pickup for OKC. And then there's okay, wait, actually, there's a lot of guys I liked went like right towards the end of this draft. I have three more. Or the end of this first round, sorry. Terrence Shannon. I don't know how the fuck the league let Terrence Shannon fall this far or get to the Timberwolves. This is a guy who was probably projected like at the beginning of the year to go top five, I would guess. I wasn't really doing scouting, but he was huge. Coming out of high school, he was a huge hype prospect. He I said he's kind of like a jumbo Jalen Green. Like he plays like that, but he's like, what is he, 6 foot? I don't have it right in front of me. 6'7"?
6'6", I have.
6'6", yeah. Big frame, with a really nice handle for that frame. When he gets downhill, he just moves guys out of his way, and gets to the rim. He has a jumper that looks pretty nice, and he has a really nice high platform, so he gets it off pretty easily, but it's a little bit shaky. Like it'll probably have to do some work for him to be like a go-to, like a start, like a, I guess, rotation player in the NBA. Like, but he's a guy with so much upside compared to some of the guys taken before him. I don't understand how he doesn't go higher. Like you put the ball in his hands, like he can create stuff. He'll be able to create stuff even at an NBA level. Like again,
How do you feel
I mean,
about
I've
him
said it so many
getting?
times.
How do you feel about him getting picked by Timberwolves, who are like probably not going to get much playing time,
It's
Or
unfortunate.
or do you think
I
he'll get
think
playing time?
I think part of the I think there's kind of like this there's like a, what do you call it? Like a paradox, right? The good front offices take players like the Timberwolves are good because they have a good front office who's consistently taking good players and develop them. They took another good player, they're probably going to develop him. But there's a paradox there. They've already taken so many good players. They put together such a good roster. He's not going to have a path to immediate playing time. He is also a guy, I don't know how old he is. I think he might be coming into the league a little bit. Uh, let's see.
Terrence Shannon.
Age 23. He's coming into the league late. You'd hope a team that's taking him has at least a plan to get him like 15 minutes a game, because it's not like he's in the position to really like develop all that much because he's already 23. Like he's already probably 90% of what he's going to be, but he's 90% of like a really good player. Like I don't get it. Why would like the Bucks, you take AJ Johnson over this guy who averaged 4 points in the Australian league? I don't think so. I don't know that much. I know enough to say that was a bad decision. 29. Isaiah Collier, our mutual friend, PD from the Passing Downs podcast, thinks this guy is the best player in the entire goddamn draft. I don't know if I agree with him on that. I would say he's probably top three. I said earlier there's another pick from the Jasmine that I really liked. I was understating it. I could give you like a 20-minute monologue on why this is the most ridiculous fall that's happened in the last like 5 NBA drafts. I think this guy is going to be so goddamn good in the NBA. I think he will be probably an all-star at some point. He possesses athletic abilities as a guard that so few players in this draft possess. You talk about a draft that has players with limited upside. Look at Isaiah Collier. This is a guy who, like, he has the acceleration, the strength, the leaping ability of like star NBA guards. He drives into guys. He moves them off of his shoulder when he drives. He gets to the rim with such ferocity. He's a great finisher. The jumper is shaky, but it's not as shaky as like it's better than Ron Hollins, who went 5 overall. He's a great passer. I think he has like a 36 or something percent assist percentage, which is like great, especially for college standards. He had to play next to Bronny James, so you got to give him credit. Like add like 5 points to his stats because Bronny was probably bringing him down. Yeah, I mean, it's just look. Yes, it is absurd for me to sit here and say that every single NBA franchise messed up by not taking this guy earlier when I'm not a general manager, but I'm going to say it anyways because I just think it's true. If you're looking for guys with upside, look at him. Look at Isaiah Collier. He has the kind of athletic tools that you want from star point guards in the NBA. And he has a willingness to pass and an ability to pass that you also want from star point guards in the NBA. Like the Jazz, they got a good one. I'm telling you, this guy could help be the captain of something in the future. Um, okay, and then that little monologue is over. Baylor Shireman, last pick of the draft. I did like him. I don't feel as strongly about him as a Collier, but I think the Celtics are another front office. They just make good picks every single year. It's not even funny. It's not fair. Great shooter, 6'6", big frame, good passer too. Was a walking triple double in college. You don't see triple doubles are very rare in college. He got it for him. He got more than most people. Good. He's a good rebounding guard again because of his size. I forget what
6'6",
comp
huh?
exactly I had on him.
Big
Yeah, no,
guard.
he's 6'6" and shot like 40-something% from three. Has a really quick release. Let's see, who did I comp to? I said he's an aggressive Kyle Anderson with a knockdown jumper. I like that comp. He has a very slow, deliberate offensive game. He's one of those guys who has a lot of these weird Euro step type moves to get to the basket. He'll kind of like do jump stop in the middle of the court like he's Jimmy Butler and like pivot around and then look, fake a pass and then take a midi stuff like that. Like the type of player I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but for the Celtics, I think what he is just another depth bench piece. Unfortunately, he's the kind of guy I'd love to see to go to a rebuilding team, but rebuilding teams are dumb. They're in that position for a reason. They don't take good players. So,
I feel like the Celtics
anyways,
the Celtics go with this pick is just try to like make sure everyone on their roster is able to shoot, I guess. So there's no non-threats on the roster.
literally,
Which
yeah, literally.
I can tell he can shoot, but yeah. Anyways, do you have any second round picks you want to highlight?
Let's see
It's a lot of second round
where
picks. I'm trying to think of guys like
there's.
I want to highlight some guys that I can like for future like basically like invest money in like, oh, this guy, I think he's gonna pan out. I think this guy's gonna pan out.
Okay, okay.
But
There were a couple guys I think maybe
in the second
that I
round,
felt in the second. There were a couple. Most of the guys, I will say this for myself, and give myself a little bit of credit. Most of the guys I put on my board, even guys who were projected to go in the second, ended up going in the first. So maybe I know a little bit. Um, there were a couple guys I think yada yada yada. How hard is it? It's so hard. I Google and can't just find a list of picks.
I can send you the ESPN. Sick. Check the chat. Let's see.
Yada yada yada. I can. Okay, okay. We found one. Who was it? Oh, the Knicks. The Knicks, you're gonna like this. Tyler Kolek, who's a guy who I think when we were talking about March Madness on an episode earlier this year. And I were like, who are some teams to watch out for? And I said Marquette, because they have Tyler Kolek, who's just this really cool, like, I don't know, he's kind of like the TJ McConnell of college. Like he's just pure point guard, but with the jump. He's literally like TJ McConnell with the jumper. That would kind of be my comp for him. Like people have comped him to Goran Dragic too. I see that also. Like pure point guard, limited athleticism, phenomenal passer. I think had the highest assist rate in all of college. He is constantly looking to pass. He makes he makes the kickouts, makes the lobs, makes the cross court passes. Like he makes it all. He's a legit like grade A playmaker. And again, he has a jumper. He's like a 39 or something percent shooter. Um, Problem is like limited athletically, which probably
Mhm.
scared a lot of NBA teams off of him. But Knicks picked him up. Knicks are the kind of front office. Knicks pick a player. You should look at that player twice. What do they see in him? They have a track record of picking good players. I'll say this. It makes me feel good they took him because I feel like I wasn't a total moron. Because he was a guy who was projected to go like 20 something, and I was like, oh, he should go higher, and then he goes 34. But it's the Knicks, so I feel a little bit optimistic.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, hopefully he can impact
oh
their title like in the finals when they make it. He's gonna help them against the Nuggets.
oh yeah
So
yeah.
yeah,
Um one last player, Enrique Freeman. This is the guy who I thought the Warriors should go after in the second round. He was a
Enrique.
way down the board. From a small school, Akron. He's 6'7", but plays like he's like 7'4". He has a giant wingspan and he just attacks the rim relentlessly. He plays out of the post. He was matched up against Creighton in the NCAA tournament. He's matched up against their 7'1" center Ryan Kalkbrenner, and he was just giving him buckets in the post, just putting his shoulder into him and going up over him. So he plays a lot bigger than his frame. He's relentless on the offensive glass. Like he just attacks the boards. I think he's the kind of guy he's going to will his way into being a good NBA player. I said he reminded me a lot of Xavier Tillman, who was that same kind of guy coming out of Michigan State. Like he was good in college. Everybody knew he was good in college, but it didn't seem like he really had a path with the skill set to be in the NBA. But he kind of just through force of will turned himself into a good NBA player by playing with hustle, attacking the boards, making the right plays. I think Freeman could be the same guy. I'm kind of pissed the Warriors didn't get him. I thought they could have used him,
Two
but
picks away.
but
Almost
they
had
did
him.
they did end up getting a big. So let's talk about him. Did you watch any highlights or stuff of him?
Yeah, I'm watching some right now actually. He's a
Um,
I don't know.
yeah, he's a 7-footer who can shoot. That's basically the story.
Oh, he can shoot?
42%. Legit 7-footer. 7 foot, 7 feet even, and he can shoot 42%. To me, that alone, at pick 52 in the draft, that alone is enough to call it a dub. Because those kind of guys, like, that's just a skill set you don't. There's just not a lot of guys who are 7 foot even who have a legit stroke and also shoot 42%. Because there's some guys who look like they have a jumper and they don't shoot that well, but he has legit stroke and it actually goes in. I think I was talking about this with the Son last episode. He's going to be just a pure floor spacer. Like he's 24, so he's going to get on the court immediately. They're not picking him for upside. They're picking him to play him right now. The idea is that he's probably a rim protector on defense. I think he'll be an average one at best, but he's a rim protector on defense. Then he spaces the floor on offense, which I guess for a bench unit could be nice. And hey, you never know. Maybe he adds some kind of like NBA post game, and I don't know, or adds a handle or something, turns into Giannis. It'd be nice to imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I feel
It's
I
like
feel like the
the
one
next
thing we've
Jokic or
always
whatever.
yeah, that'd be insane. I feel like the one thing we've heard about is Warriors fans like get a center, and like for a while, I would kind of just like ignore that and be like, "Well, we're at our best when when we're like running small ball." But it kind of seems like we're kind of just like in a different phase as the Warriors, so we kind of just have to embrace that we might need a center, and it does help that like, he can shoot. I just don't know like how strong he's going to be as a rim protector. That kind of seems like for a 7 footer. I don't know if that's like hopefully that'll translate kind of similar to Donovan Klingen, maybe kind of like too slow footed to really. And that's always the thing with rim protectors is if they're too slow, maybe they just like get beat too much. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Hopefully, he's more pro ready as like a 24-year-old. So
Yeah. My idea was like it's kind of like the Sarge replacement. And hopefully a Sarge replacement who's a little bit better on D so that he doesn't get played off the floor.
yeah,
From what I've heard in college, like at least the metrics said he was a good rim protector, but he's the kind of guy who like his physical profile is not that of an elite rim protector at all. Like he doesn't have freakish vertical. He's kind of slow footed. Like there could be some issues, so we'll see.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I
and
do
then
hope
because oh,
oh,
sorry, wait, let me not interrupt you.
I was gonna say I hope he can like kind of mesh well with like Steph, Dre, kind of like immediately, and we can kind of see this because this pick kind of has to hit for us to. I mean, obviously, maybe we can make like another pick, or another not a pick, like a many moves in this during the summer. But hopefully, he can, among other moves that we make this summer, he can kind of like positively impact the roster. Because if not, it kind of sucks. I mean, I do like this pick, but yeah, hopefully he can help us win now. But,
I mean, look, it's the 52nd pick in the draft. You can't expect too much.
yeah,
It's the 52nd pick in a weak draft. You really can't expect too much, honestly. But I like the basic idea that he's 7 feet and can shoot 42% is enough to sell me on it immediately. So,
yeah,
um,
I do like it. I think it's gonna pan
yeah.
out. But yeah, we'll see.
And what I was about to get into is because we're talking about the NBA draft, you have to talk about it. The
Bronny,
Los Angeles Lakers with pick 55 out of USC select Bronny James. Um, I
it's
like
kind of
he
perfect.
sucks.
It's kind of perfect. They had the
He
55th
sucks.
pick
So
because
yeah,
if they had anything earlier, then it would like kind of It'd be really alarming, but like it's not, honestly, it's not that bad. Like he sucks.
Yeah, I mean, it's
He
like,
doesn't deserve to get picked, but
yeah, you're
nepotism.
probably not gonna get anybody who's NBA. It's really rare that you get NBA worthy players at the 55th pick, anyways. But there were definitely guys who deserve to get picked there more on terms of talent. But being LeBron's son has its benefits, I guess. Um, I'll try to be fair to him. He's a willing passer, and he's a better passer than probably the average college player.
He has to be a willing passer.
He has to be a willing passer because he can't shoot. He has the most beautiful jumper. His jumper looks like teaching tape, right? It looks like he's like an NBA a YouTube video on how to build your jumper, but he doesn't go in, so that's a problem. His handle's pretty weak. He has zero aggressiveness. He looks like he doesn't even want to score the ball. He literally like he'll get a pass and he just like is staring around the court looking for a teammate to pass to. Um, he's athletic for his size, but he's small, like he's 6'1", which is not prototypical size for an NBA guard. Um, he does, I guess, have his dad's athleticism, but not really because his dad is one of the most athletic players to ever play in the NBA, and he's just a decent athlete. And people say he's good defensively. I don't know. USC was like 2-100 last year, so didn't make too much of an impact on that end. Yeah, he's probably just gonna not ever be an NBA player. I just wanted to get that out there, like just so I put it on record. Like he's not an NBA player. Like let's just get that clear. Like he could develop into like a 15th man. He's not a rotation player, and he probably will never be. But he got picked anyways, so just
Dude,
had to mention that.
seeing Jason Tim's like thumbnail, like he's better than you think. That had me
Yeah,
dead.
sure. Yeah, sure.
I mean, when the expectations are super low, then maybe he's right in a way. Like when I just expect
Yeah,
him
I
to be
mean,
like an average pickup player, and
yeah, I
he's just gonna
mean,
be better than your average Joe, I guess. We'll see.
he's probably G League caliber. Like, I guess. I mean, the thing is, a guy of his talent would normally just play a couple more years in college and try to develop into a better player. But his dad wants him in the NBA now because he's getting old and for his ego, I guess, he has to play with him.
Yeah, yeah. I
Hopefully,
mean,
hopefully, he doesn't end up ruining Bronny's career. It would be tragic.
yeah. What's gonna be one of the
Um,
biggest what could have happened if you know he's a big what if. But yeah,
yeah, that's
is
yeah. I mean, I guess I put myself out there a little bit because I said things about prospects, and I'm not a scout, so
no, I mean
hey, if
honestly,
I'm
it's
right, it'll feel pretty good.
yeah, honestly, it's kind of. Did you just like what was your strategy? Did you just like look over like go
I
look at
look
mock drafts and then like look up highlights for
I
each
just looked at mock
name, and
drafts.
then see?
I looked at highlights for each name. I think look, I'll say this. It's not the hardest thing in the world. Like we're like is if you understand the modern NBA, I mean again, I'm not a GM, but I do spend more time than I probably should watching and consuming basketball media. So if you understand this type of skills, the type of players, the type of frame, athleticism, all that is required for modern NBA, and you understand team and fit, and you can watch highlights without and actually try to think, okay, like how is he creating his offense? How will this translate? Like, can I think of players who operate this way in the NBA? Like, can I think of players with the skill set who are good, who are bad, etc. It's possible to at least try to do it, and
Mhm.
that's what I tried to do. So again, we'll see. I would love, there's a world where I'm right about every pick. So I'm looking forward to living in that world. I doubt it, but it'll be fun.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's something kind of more. I think the way I would go about it is kind of like figure out. Well, actually, yeah, we do know the order of the draft, so I would probably like think about if I'm the Hawks, I'd probably go pick by pick. Like, okay, what do I need? If I'm the Spurs, what do I need? Whatnot, or the Wizards, what do I need? That's probably how I would do it. But yeah, I mean, to get like a comparison for each player, then yeah, that's probably watch some highlights. I was just thinking like the highlights are I don't know if it's like best representative of like what Zach Edey is. I mean, obviously he's
Yeah. Zach Edey, I did see a lot. Zach Edey's the one guy I saw like play like 20 games. Because I saw a lot of Purdue games over the course of this year, but both just because like they were on TV and then in the tournament I was watching Purdue's games because they're the best team. So
yeah.
Zach Edey, I feel like I have a pretty good idea just of who he is generally. And that's kind of why I spent so much time talking about him.
Yeah. Yeah, I probably should have.
Um,
I think I did for like a few players, and I was like, oh, this is kind of like a lot of work, so I just like stopped. But yeah, it's I can see how it's kind of fun because you just have to like imagine like what this guy is gonna do at the next level. But yeah. Should we transition over to talking about some rumors or Should we save that for
I
like
mean, why
a
not? Let's I guess let's say let's at least stress this one thing. So earlier today, the Golden State Warriors waived like 15-time All-Star guard Chris Paul.
love to
I know,
see
let's
it?
clap it up. Clap it up. It's a good day for the Warriors franchise. A lot of Warriors fans were very sad because what that meant was that they're not going to be able to do a sign and trade with him. I mean, sure, true, whatever, but we all knew that with like when Paul George decided he was not going to resign with the Clippers, we all knew what that meant. There was no sign and trade happening for anybody for the Warriors because there were no names that were out there that's even a remote possibility. So, and then I don't know if you saw it, but I saw a news alert on my phone while we were recording. Chris Paul is now signed with the San Antonio Spurs. So Wimby gets probably a guy who'll be good for him. Like, look, he going to lead them to playoff contention this year? Honestly, I mean, Wimby seems to be, maturing very fast. So maybe so. I doubt it, but I think it'll be good for Wimby to play with him. It'll be good for all those young guys to play with him. Like, shout out to Chris Paul. Now that he's not on the Warriors anymore, I guess I can't hate him as much. Honestly, no, I've been hating him for like 20 years now. He just hasn't played on the Warriors for most of those years. So, but yeah, I mean, again, not like a league shattering move. Like, you know, San Antonio's core gets to develop a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I mean, it's kind of
if
like the
this,
like a lot of like it's kind of like a Trey Young kind of type trade. I mean, obviously he's not good as Trey Young, not as good of a shooter or athletic, but like pick and roll passer, that's kind of just like the same archetype. So well, Wemby can kind of get that guy in Chris Paul. So I kind of liked it in that aspect.
ah,
But
as of an hour ago, Jonas Valanciunas is signed with the Washington Wizards. A league altering. What will the Eastern Conference do? I think. I mean, I guess I'm doing analysis now. Like I just saw this. Like as of when I said that, I think it's just because they need to spend money on somebody. It's like the Fred VanVleet signing last year. Like you got to sign somebody.
yeah,
Um,
how much is the contract for? 30 million? That's actually not too much,
yeah, no,
honestly.
it's not for the modern NBA. That's not much at all.
Well, I thought especially
Um,
because like you said, they're kind of one of the teams that needs to fill the cap. But
yeah.
so but I mean I guess
Um, and then
I mean it's
no new updates on Klay, no new updates on Paul George, except they're saying, what were they saying about Paul George? What there's a tweet here.
Paul George tweeted
Okay,
something.
so he's unlikely. Okay, so he's unlikely to return the Clippers. When Woj says something, it's true. That's one thing I've learned in the NBA. There's nobody who knows what's going on quite like Woj does. So when he says it's unlikely, it's definitely unlikely. So okay, I guess to close this episode out, maybe we could talk about Paul George, the two ideal or theoretical destinations are the Magic and the 76ers. What do you like more? So what do you think about each option?
I'll start off with the Magic. Think I think he would work in both situations, but I don't think the Magic is as good just because you're kind of injecting a superstar who, although I think he can play kind of complementary to any system, I just think that he takes the ball a little bit more away from your two young kind of point forwards in Paolo and Franz, especially since I think they kind of solved their shooting problem with getting KCP. I think Paul George would obviously improve their shooting, but he would kind of just disrupt, like I said, their progression. In my opinion, I think the better fit is with the Sixers just because they're closer to title contention. They have their number one guy. Paul George would kind of be overtasked as well. He'd be the best player on the Magic, so that would definitely kind of
Would be. Yeah.
disrupt things. So, but he kind of slots in perfectly as that two, like number two slash number three option on the Sixers behind Embiid and Maxey, and he can kind of just like be that prototypical like wing scorer. I mean, he's replacing Tobias Harris, and they like basically anything is better than Tobias Harris,
My God.
especially Paul
Yeah.
George. Paul George is, even though he's 34, you're kind of taking like kind of a chance that he stays healthy. He stayed healthy majority of these past few years. It's been Kawhi that's not been healthy. So I think Paul George, you're kind of it's a safer option. I think they immediately actually I don't know with the injecting Paul George into the Sixers, I don't know how the East stacks up in terms of like who's number one, two, and three. Because there's a solid three. We don't know what the order is. Well, also the Knicks may not be done, but Yeah, no,
Knicks are done. I'm sorry, they don't. Their Knicks are out of money, so they're.
no,
This isn't me being a
but
hater.
they could
Knicks
do
are just
like
out of
a
money.
Randall trade or something. That's kind of what I mean. That's the
Oh,
avenue.
that's they don't want to though. I don't. I have seen people talk about that. There's just nothing is ever. There's people always say like smoke. There's smoke where there's fire, right? Like there's no smoke around the Randall trade. Like they seem to think Randall's part of their core.
I mean,
So
to be honest, I don't hate it just because I feel like Randall is kind of transitioning over to like the Knicks as title contenders, but I feel like Randall, he's their second option behind Jalen Brunson, but he's also not tasked with like being their sole creator when Brunson's off the floor. Like there's a little more aggregate ball handling with Mikal now. So I do like their championship core even with Randall a little more, but that's just my 2 cents on that. What do you think is
yeah, I
the
mean,
better fit between Sixers and Magic?
oh, I have the same answer you do. I will say this. I don't even really understand why the Magic are going after him. I only felt like I need to mention it because there's been so much talk about it. Yeah, I mean, I just think he's the wrong type of player for the Magic to go after. He's just too old. He's not going to be around for long enough. You want guys who are going to commit to that core for the long haul. Like they Magic, like if they'd gone out and gotten McHale, it would have been like, okay, I see that. He could be there for 5 years and you don't count on a major, uh decline or whatever. But Paul George, like the fit also was like a little bit weird because you already have two big wings. He's the third big wing. And you're playing three big wings. I mean, I guess defensively it might start being a little bit slow. There might start being issues there. Look, I, to me it just seems like it's almost a done deal already that he's going to the 76ers anyways. Like I think the KCP signing was kind of signal like, yeah, we probably don't need Paul George. Like we were thinking about it, but we don't need him. Um, I mean, Embiid, Maxey, Paul George is a perfect trio. You have your wing, you have your guard, you have your big, you have two players who are good defenders. Now, Paul George is getting worse on defense, he's getting older, but he still is definitely an above average defender. Uh, you have the size, like, PG, Embiid, plenty of size. Like the problem is for the Sixers is still that they're going to be filling out. So if you
Yeah.
imagine they have Maxey, they have Paul George, they have Embiid. They're going to be filling out the gap. They're going to be filling in the gaps with some pretty, kind of ragtag bunch. Like it's going to be what Kyle Lowry, what's his face, French dude, Batum. Um,
Well, there's been
who
whispers that
else?
he might even
They,
leave. So
they signed Drummond. Like I mean, it's a good backup to Embiid, but
yeah.
certainly not a member of your starting rotation. So
Mm-hmm.
like
I think who else
the
is in
bit
there?
the depth is still just a little bit scary to me. I don't even know if I'm not sure who. Oh, they took McCain. That's a player I didn't talk about because I wasn't the highest on him, but I'll say this about him. Okay, first off, he paints his nails, so I don't know if you know who he is.
Oh
He's the guy
yeah.
who paints his nails
Yeah.
and does
I saw
TikToks. Yeah,
that.
he's that guy. He's a knockdown shooter. I don't think he projects as much else in the NBA, but he is a knockdown shooter. So I think he's kind of the healed replacement because they're probably not getting healed back no matter what. So I don't think that's like that moves much for them. I think it's a pretty lateral move from Hield to McCain at best because McCain's young and he's going to be learning how to play in the NBA.
Hmm.
The second round pick is Adam Bona, who's not a guy I'm just not going to say anything about it. I mean, he could be incredible, but it would be a shock to me. Um, yeah, their depth is going to be a problem for them again, which is unfortunate because Embiid's the kind of guy you want to protect with depth because you don't want him playing big minutes, especially in the regular season. In fact, I think the ideal season for Embiid is he plays like 50 games and then just sits out the rest of the season until the playoffs so he doesn't get hurt. But um, yeah, I would still put the Celtics and Knicks over them. I guess if we're getting there,
Really?
even with Paul
Okay.
George.
Okay.
Right. I've just seen it too much. Like I don't trust Embiid to stay healthy. It's sad. You hate to see it for a guy. It's the same thing with Kawhi. He's just in a category at this point where you can't trust him to stay healthy. Like if I was to put money on it, I would feel more comfortable putting my money on the fact he'd be hurt again next playoff run than that he'd be healthy. And that's a problem, and it's scary. Like, and no, I don't like Kelly Oubre and D'Anthony Melton and Batum and Mo Bamba, Covington. I don't know who else. They don't move the needle for me. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that trio, when healthy, would give them the firepower to beat either the Bucks or sorry, not the either the Knicks or the Celtics. But I wouldn't bet on them being healthy, and I would probably still put my money on the Celtics or Knicks to take them down even when healthy. So
Yeah, that's
it's
fair.
gonna be
I
fun.
definitely
I'll say
agree.
that.
Yeah.
I'll
The East
I'll
is
say that. It's going to be fun, and they'll give somebody a competitive series, assuming they can stay healthy.
Yeah, that's my only hope is that they can stay healthy because this big three, like, it's going to be interesting because they're kind of arms racing in different ways. Like the Sixers would be arms racing with stars, but then the Knicks and Celtics, I mean, the Celtics, I guess, are arms racing with stars, but the Knicks are kind of just building like a super deep ass team. I mean, Jalen Brunson obviously their star, but then kind of just around him, you just have like very nice complementary pieces, great defenders. Hopefully they can retain Hartenstein, but otherwise, I mean, even without Hartenstein, it's still going to be they're a deep ass team, good wing
They
defenders,
still
good
have
guard defenders.
Robinson.
Yeah, exactly. So they have, regardless, they're going to have like a very solid 1 through 5. So, but yeah, anyways, I guess hopefully something will happen with Paul George by the next time we record with Hassan on this
Absolutely.
weekend. But
That's the idea. Hopefully, free agency is settled mostly at that point, and we can talk about some real concrete facts going into next NBA season. But yeah, anyways, we will see you guys next week.
bye. Very awesome.